sent you this morning.
Yeah, with the letters.
I've talked to
If they're not totally damaged.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. Ivan, would you do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilmember Ehrenkrantz.
Here.
Chairperson Haggerty.
Here. Okay, introductions. Lieutenant Q, do you want to start back there?
Lieutenant Earl Quinata, Canyon Lake Police Department.
You, sir?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Dave Webb, just a resident.
What's your name?
Dave Webb.
Dave Webb. Okay.
Chips Hopkins, resident.
Dawn Kupke, reporter
Wait,
for the
wait,
Friday Flyer.
wait. Chip, what was your?
Hopkins.
Hopkins. Okay.
Donna Kupke, reporter for the Friday Flyer.
Sheila Reisinger, Animal Friends of the Valleys.
Judy Rochelle, code enforcement.
Ivan Henry, special enforcement.
Mike Fee, Special Enforcement.
David Torkelson, resident.
Could you spell your last name for me?
Sure. T's and Tom, O-R-A-E-L-S-O-N.
Torgo, just like it sounds.
Corpus resident. Same one. Oh, Lake Park resident.
Jerry Patterson, homeowner.
Ken Signorio, resident.
And what was your first name?
Ken?
Ken?
Ken, K-E-N.
And your last name?
Signorio.
Okay, I have an Italian grandson, I can probably spell it. Okay, thank you. Do you have any issue with our prior minutes?
I do not.
Okay, I would move then, I don't know if I have to move, that we accept the minutes as presented. And that's for February 2nd, March 1st. Okay, animal control.
I'm going to read off the calls for March. The after-hours calls were 7. We did 1 quarantine. We issued 27 citations. We issued 2 notices of violation. We had 0 hearings, public nuisance or potentially dangerous hearings. We sold 90 licenses. We had 10 owner turn-in dogs, 7 stray dogs impounded, 3 owner turn-in cats, 5 stray cats impounded, and 1 owner turn-in others. That could have been a bird, a rabbit, or something like that. Wildlife impounded was 7. And we did 3 animal welfare checks, responded to 2 vicious animal calls. We had 8 noise nuisance calls. We had 4 stray confined animals, and no incidents, meaning bite to animal. We picked up 4 dead animals. We had 5 snake calls. Responded to 10 running at large calls, 1 injured animal call, and 4 trapped animal calls. The rattlesnakes came out early this season due to the weather. So the trapping of the wildlife has gone up a little bit, and the noise nuisances possibly because people are leaving their windows open. But other than that, all's pretty quiet in Canyon Lake.
Okay. Could you tell me that are the rattlesnakes focused more or less in one area, or they spread all over the city?
In my experience, I wasn't your Canyon Lake officer last month, but in my experience with Canyon Lake, it's all over. They don't have like one little spot.
So it's just not by the golf course or?
Yeah, they grow them big here. So that I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the reasons are, but I see in January, there were 39 owner cats turned in. And in March, there was only 3, which is fine. I didn't mean to emphasize only. I'm just curious, what are the reasons for them turning in? And the same with turned in dogs. Just the opposite. This, a higher amount of dogs were turned in.
Well, personally, I can testify to the owner turning cats. We worked with a woman that had an issue with too many cats, and she was feeding a bunch of cats in her garage, and she just wasn't spaying and neutering them, and we worked with her about getting them out for her, so that was that case. I think I talked about it the last time I was here.
Yes, I think you did, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was that. As far as the dogs, I'm not quite sure about that. I could look into it or have Officer Middleton look into it for you. But I know personally about the cats. That was I'll just call it what it is. It was a hoarder situation, so we worked with her.
And the 10 dogs that were turned in, then they go through the regular process in the shelter. You try to adopt them out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, our first, with the owner turn-ins, they can go up for adoption that day. So that's a good thing. We really do everything we can to get those dogs adopted out. And if we can't get them adopted out in a long time, then we work on the rescues, the fosters, and stuff like that. And we have adoption shows like at Petco in Temecula every Saturday. We do really well there. And like our foster, that's usually how our foster program works. We have the foster families bring the dogs directly to Petco so they don't have to go in and out of the shelter and stuff like that. And then if they don't get adopted, they go right back home with the foster family. So the dog's life isn't too, upset and stuff like that. So. And then we also have rescues like, the names are escaping me because I'm in front of you all, but, Helen Woodward, they came out and they pick up dogs for us. They're really strict too. They draw blood to see how the titers are going as far as the vaccines and stuff like that, and they do strict health checks before they take them off our hands. So. We do everything in our power to not euthanize. That is a total last resort, and that's usually because of behavioral problems that might not be able to get fixed. And even the dog whisperer can't fix that type of problem. So that's
I wasn't aware that there were foster dog people.
Anybody here who wants to help save lives, that is an awesome way to help us.
So you take the dog, but you're just a foster.
Well, I've done it before.
Is there a limit of time that you can keep them or anything?
No, as long as
It's
you don't
just
have
like taking them, except you can bail out if you want.
Well, I kind of look at it as being a grandma. You get to, love them, train them, spoil them. Well, don't spoil them too much, but, take care of them, clean them up, get them adoptable, and then they go home. And we make sure they get good homes by doing yard checks and application process. And anybody who's gotten a dog from us knows that we don't just give them out to anybody, so, yeah.
Excuse me, there's a question in the back.
You have trapped animals for March. You have 4 of them, and at the bottom it says trapping of wildlife is up. Could you please tell us what kind of animals you're trapping and where were they relocated?
That I did speak with the Canyon Lake officer, and he said he trapped a few possums. And usually with the possums, we just go a little ways away and release them.
Nothing like that.
Yeah, well, they could, but we try to counsel people on how to distract wildlife from your home instead of, the only other option is destroying it. So, we do what we can to not destroy any animal, so. And possums are very docile creatures. They don't,
They
they're
rats,
actually
right?
good, they eat ticks, they're actually really good for your environment in small numbers, but they kind of freak people out, so.
Really great pets.
Well, I don't know.
I had one, I have a question
Yes.
regarding back to the snakes.
Yes.
We'd like to put out something, since the snakes are coming out with the warm weather, in the paper. So what can you suggest if people see a snake? What do they do? And you said they're all around.
Right.
Even if there's not a specific area, do you find that there's more on the outskirts as opposed to the middle, near the water?
Well, one thing I noticed when I go on a snake call is I look around and I notice, oh, they have a bird feeder. Oh, the bird feeders, their seeds drop down, attract the mice. The mice attract the snakes. It's like a big circle of life. So, and then water, they like water. I counsel people on wood piles and debris and rodents. They're just trying to help you out with your rodents. So they really don't want nothing to do with you, although it collides when it collides. You just live in an area where there's wildlife, and actually that's a really cool thing if you think about it. We get to see all this coyotes and raccoons and squirrels and stuff like that. You go into other cities, it's all gone. But actually, I kept one of your articles on rattlesnakes, and I have it still. You did it a couple of years ago. I thought it was an amazing artical.
So maybe I'll just reprint that one.
It was amazing.
Okay,
And
good.
I kept that because it was so good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and one other thing. When it's a good snake, I try to let people leave it there. It's a king snake. It's great. Snakes have their territories, so if you see a good snake, the chances of you seeing a rattlesnake go way down because that's that snake's little spot. So I try to counsel people. People are so afraid of snakes, but truly that gopher snake, it's just helping you, and the king snake, and you guys have red racers too, so those are really fast.
Are they deadly?
What's that?
Are they deadly?
No, the only one that you have to worry about is the rattlesnake, and that's the one that we will kill when we come on your property. All the other snakes we just pick up and drive around the corner and release it.
Give them to another neighbor.
Well, we try not to put it in your backyard, but yeah, we have some people that volunteer. You could put it in my house, so then sure, you can have it, so, yeah.
Can you recommend how to keep the raccoons from living in my boat?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
The only
What
thing I
is
can do
it?
is keep the cover off. They don't go out there if the cover's not
Oh,
on.
really?
Mhm.
Well,
Which means the boat gets filthy. It's really bad.
yeah.
I even found a dead one in there one year. Keep your
Oh.
boat covered tight, just.
Well, we could trap at your house. Well, raccoons are hard to relocate,
But then-
actually,
but-
because they're so mean.
But then again, I think California law says you have to release them within 100 yards of wherever you trap them or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
we had a wildlife lady, and she said within a mile.
1 mile, yeah.
Yeah.
That's useless. Absolutely useless.
When we get a serious nuisance, mean animal, we will put it to sleep. I mean, because we're not going to give it to your neighbor. But for the most part, we try to not kill things, so, but we will if we have to, so.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
appreciate it.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I'm just going to go to work and,
Thank you.
okay, you have a nice day.
Okay, Nancy? I didn't see her. Okay, so we don't have emergency fire report, department report. We don't have anyone here from the fire department, so we had 3 false alarms, 55 medicals, 6 public assistance, and 3 traffic collisions for a total of 67 in the month of February. And the calls en route to on-scene time, we had 36 at 5 minutes, 19 at just over 5 minutes, 6 at 10 minutes, none at 20. And the average then was 5.5 minutes. And the percentage of 0 to 5 minutes was 59%. I'm very pleased with that response time, considering that we don't have our own fire department. I think it's very close to what our times were when we had our own, so that's good news. I suppose you all have, do you have a list of the fire report?
No, it's not back here.
Okay, well then I will read this to the incident report. We had 5 out of Station 97 and 3 out of Station 5. And those were, what is PAP?
Assistance.
Usually it stands for public assistance.
Public assistance? Oh yeah, that makes sense, public assistance.
Call in, I can't get up, calls like that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we had the ones that came from 5. There were 2 public assistants and 1 MedBRA. That would be medical response, something or other. Okay. And that is our fire report. And the police report. Oh, I'm sorry.
You said that was from February. Do you have March's?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
This was the 28th. It takes us a couple weeks to get them. If you'd like a copy of this.
Wait, I'll see you after.
Good morning. This is crime stats for March of last month. If you don't have any, I have crime stats on the back table. So these are our Part 1 crimes as well as our calls. We had 363 calls last month. We had 13 Part 1 crimes. If you don't have a list in the back, it shows obviously homicides, rapes, and arsons are 0. Assault, we had 1 assault, and very unfortunate incident there in reference to a juvenile getting shot with a BB gun somewhere by the baseball field. So my deputy's working on that. He has follow-up. He's been in contact with the parents and trying to reach out to witnesses that could just maybe call them back. That would help us a lot. 2 burglaries. Of those, as you can see, it was a vacant rental property. Obviously, you look at the first obvious sign. It's not the former tenant, so we're trying to figure that one out as well. We had a neighbor call in. A neighbor heard it at 1 in the morning, but never got a call on it. So I'm going to have a certain theme here once I get done with this. Another burglary where you got some tools taken out of the garage. You have 5 grand thefts, petty thefts. One's notable that I'm going to read off. This one just kind of gives me a little hope in society and parenting. It shows on 3/12, we had a gentleman run out from Eastport Market with some beer, and our deputy was able to get license plate. Good, poor quality surveillance at the market. However, we got license plate. Deputy ran out to Hemet where this mom's vehicle was, left a message, told her, hey, we're looking at your son. Mom brought back 2 of the suspects, apologized to the store owner, and had him pay for the beer.
Good.
And the owner was like, I don't want nothing done. So I said, parenting, love it.
Yeah.
So we were able to solve down straightforward, and they were from Homeland. Other 2 grand theft, petty thefts. Again, this is the theme I'm going to be working off. Both of those last 2 were unlocked vehicles. 3 vehicle thefts. First one was taken. We discovered it. My deputy went cruising around it right after the call, located it 2 blocks away in the lake. I had another one broken into on Railroad Canyon, 3100 block. Vehicle unlocked. It was recovered in Menifee 2 days later. The last one was a pretty high expensive dirt bike. We have some leads following up on that. So 2 theft from vehicles. Tolls were taken on one, and we're trying to determine the suspect on the last one out of your fitness center there. Vandalism, we have 4. Traffic citations. DUI arrests, you have 1, and you have 3 paralleling the fire departments, 3 traffic collisions that they responded to. Before I get into some other stuff, any questions? Yes, sir.
I thought and they may not have been reported, but I thought there was some golf cart
Yes,
thefts too.
thank you for that. That's really good. It's one of my little things. The first key word, it wasn't reported. So I'm handcuffed. However, the first one, my deputy was in with Bluebird, working with Canyon Lake Security. Some lady comes in, tells him, hey, golf cart goes out the gate. Oh, ma'am, was he going across the way, which is legal? No, he took a hard right, went down El Solar. Problematic. Deputy gets on, boom, he goes down. As he's going down, he's figuring he can't get that far away. It's a golf cart. So as he gets on the roadway heading south to Elsinore, west to Elsinore, he slows down, looks at all the, I think the church and a couple other buildings on there. Pulls into a parking lot, gets the guy in custody. So that one fought with him several times. At the scene, in the station, and at the jail. So my deputy had a hard working on that one. The second one was a resident saw his vehicle, his golf cart, and it was spray painted already. And then fortunately I should say, the owner says, oh, that's my speaker system, or that's something unique about it. Deputy pulls it over, sure enough, we get the custody back. So again, the theme I'm saying, 1 is unlocked vehicles. 2, we need to report it. Because there's a lot of stuff I'm going to take a little sidetrack from your question because it prompted it. Take a little sidetrack. There's a lot of commentary, a lot of discussion on all these blogs that we have in Crime Watch, Crime Lake and all that. I get it. I love it. However you guys want to communicate. If whoever's managing those blogs or Crime Watch pages, if you are the administrator, shoot back and say, did you report it to the police department?
Most of them reported his.
all the time.
And okay, then I get some times where okay, great. I get the call. I try to mirror it up. I don't see the call. So, you know, it's since October of 2013 when I took this Canyon Lake spot and tried to help to manage it. That's been my theme. Call the police department. Several instances where I talked to my deputy, they said they called Securitas first. If you don't want us to catch it, if you don't want us to catch the individual, call Securitas. Because we have a good working relationship with Securitas. You're talking about at least a 3-minute, 4-minute delay. Because it goes to their dispatch, they send out a unit, because we told Securitas, this is an RSO problem. Call the sheriff's department. So 5, 6, 7 minutes. It takes a lot. The lady that walked right into Bluebird, right out the door, we found out where it's at. This time.
So you're saying call 911?
Yes, and I think, but the animal services lady said you had a great article. You've written a lot of articles on that. So pull out one from the rabbit hat and just put it back in.
There's my note.
There you go. Because I want them to understand they lock their vehicles, call 911. Because, I get a lot of reports, it's unlocked. So, okay, with that, anything else? Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, there's two numbers. You want to call 911 or the direct line, which would be more appropriate?
You know what? For example, you hear something at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Well, that would
that's
be
a 911.
Yeah.
If it's, my car got broken in, call 911. Because then how many know the non-emergency number?
Yeah.
And how many know 911?
We try to
Okay, call 911.
all the time.
Because I don't want you going like this. You know what? I don't want to call. I'll just leave it alone. It doesn't. I like to see trends, and I'm going to discuss a little bit about how I approach the trend on this case right here. Sir.
I was just curious, the golf cart theft, is that a vehicle theft or is that just a regular theft?
It's a vehicle theft.
So what's the procedure to My son's out $1,200. All his batteries were taken, his vehicle was stripped, it was taken off his driveway, there was no keys or nothing there. They just, I don't know how they got it.
Which call was this, or when can I, which one is it on the
It's
page?
on 30406 Emperor.
Well, did he call? I'm gonna look on this little sheet I have.
Yeah, he called, yeah. He had the police officer went down and...
When did he call? This month or last month or?
When was it?
Last week.
Last week.
Yeah, right, all five
Five of them were stolen.
5 of them were
one
stolen
week.
in 1 week.
Was this on Ember, did
Yeah.
you say?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
5 motorcycles or 5
No.
golf carts?
You know,
5 golf carts.
Golf carts
On Ember?
have universal keys pretty much.
Oh.
They don't need a key. If they can get a key, golf cart key from wherever, and 9 out of 10 times it'll fit in that. So,
Thank you for that, because I will put a different key in.
Not
yeah,
only that, you should put in a hidden kill switch, not just a toggle switch sitting right there,
Yeah.
somewhere hidden,
Yeah.
where not within arm's reach, because that's the first thing that somebody's going to do is just, well, where is it?
Yeah.
So you put it somewhere else, like maybe on the left side somewhere instead of the right.
I'm gonna be honest with you, this is very great discussion. Seriously, you know, I've been in the last couple of public safeties, there's nobody that comes out. I love to hear the concerns and we wanna address it. We just learned there's a common key and
Yeah.
things to do.
I know, yeah.
And that helps me out as well, because my deputies will say, oh, you had a key for it. Yeah, well, everybody in Canyon Lake may have a key for it.
Because they go card.
Yeah,
You got a golf cart.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
because you're talking now about 5 batteries and 5 golf carts, so.
We got a small car, pretty much all of them.
yeah, you can
Easy to
have
go, it doesn't matter.
a different key lock put in
Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
with a special key, which they cannot use, but
it's good idea.
I mean, I've used my key, somebody, you know, dropped their key, couldn't find it, whatever.
I
said,
got in the
"Use
wrong
mine."
cart by accident.
Oh, let me write that down. What's the first thing?
And I don't know, you're saying 5 carts were stolen last week?
Yes.
I'll
Did
look
they
into that.
find
I'll look
any
into
other?
that, because I know we only got the 2. And my guys I'm working on
This
something.
one was found on Burning Tree. My son.
Okay, that's the one we got.
Yeah.
We found the one on Burning Tree.
Uh-huh.
And
What
we,
about the one on Gray Fox?
But
I don't know
now,
which one on
did
Great
the
Fox.
guy
You don't know that?
live in
I guess
I'm
one
sorry.
report.
Did the guy live in the lake?
Well, here's a couple I'm gonna break off a little bit and answer some of that. Before we get into that, anything else? So here's how it works on my end, so everybody can kind of understand what I'm doing and what we're trying to do with the police department and the resources that we have. So first off, one day, almost the latter part of the month, I'm gonna say maybe the Monday of the 25th or something to that effect, my deputies tell me, hey, we just got a string of burglaries. You know, one of my deputies says I had 4 reports yet to take. And, oh, great. So immediately what I do is, that's a spike too much for me. So I take the information, I says, hey, do me a favor, go from March 15th, because prior to that I didn't hear anything, to do an analysis on calls for service. From that point in time, I tell my deputies, look, we're looking at a trend. Let's get out there and people you know, anybody that can help, let's get on it. From now, the 15th to the end of the month, I need to know, as well as going into April. Of the 4 deputies, they're out there taking care of business. My first one gets the hook of the golf cart. He finds it, tries to work the gentleman, the one that fights, but obviously he doesn't give us any information. My second deputy, assigned to the lake, ends up getting the burning tree.
Uh-huh.
So we were trying to work that angle because we have it was a local that was in
That's
the
what I
lake.
thought, yeah.
Secondly, and even when I said the vehicle that was recovered 2 blocks away, it's a local.
Mhm.
No, if you know the camera systems that are going to be installed eventually at the main gates, I've talked to Securitas and the POA about that, because I need to know if that stolen vehicle goes out the gate, do they make a left or a right? If it's left, I can notify Menifee, hey, look for a car that way. If it's a right, I obviously have connections in Lake Elsinore, and I say, hey, look for the vehicle. But what I was looking at, so then we had the one on Burning Tree. Then the third one, it actually is going to be part of my April stats on this past Saturday, April 2nd. One of my former deputies that worked here in Canyon Lake, and what I do with them is when they start to have 2 or 3 years and they develop in their personal policing and they're getting in a good format, he was selected to be on our special enforcement team for another city. He still had connections in the lake. He hooked up this guy that was out of Hemet. No. apologize on that, I don't know where he's located. But out of that arrest, he solved 6 of the burglaries. Because he found property, so he closed out 6 of the cases, and then from there, the common theme is, I only have 6 because that was the reported 6. I may have others, but we have to backtrack now. So, I mean, I'm gonna say it, yeah, if you have a report, if anybody's out there in video land that says, yeah, oh yeah, you know what, I didn't report it. What's the chances? Well, there is. It's not necessarily having the 4 deputies that are within that I select. It also has my prior predecessor deputies that are on special teams that still have contacts in the lake. Because he may be in Menifee right now, but he still hears about people, taken out of Canyon Lake. So with that, I had 3 arrests that helped put an impact because of the deployment and the strategy that was given. And we got some property recovered, and we're reaching out, we're doing follow-up, reaching out, hey, we got this, did you have a pink bag or something to that effect? So that's how I deployed and managed to make sure I don't want this going on, for several more weeks. So I think we kind of put a little halter on it, but we're working it still, follow-ups. Yes, ma'am.
So do you find that with the bigger things like the golf carts, that they do run in groups, so once one group or one group steals something, they do several, or is it random, like one here, one there, and all different people?
And again, I said this since October 2013, it's crimes of opportunity. It's the normal suspect or thief realizes, 1, you got a gated community, okay? 2, you just kind of roll in a pack. Who you guys coming with? Who you for? Secondly, when they're in, it's just a crime opportunity. Unlock cars. This is what they're doing, and people do this all the time. They just lift the handle. That's it. I ended up catching a kid in Anaheim when I was going to my kid's softball game, and I saw him walk by and just start lifting handles. Jeez. And then I called Anaheim PD. They came out and they arrested him because he had a backpack full of property. So, just got to be more conscious of that. Yes, ma'am.
It was circulating on one of the Facebook sites about somebody getting codes to garage door openers.
Yeah, I'm going to have a discussion with that watch commander from Securitas, because if you don't know, I don't know about that specifically because I haven't met with Jay and discussed that, but I heard it was from Securitas. I got to verify it. But yes, how many of you have a garage door opener, and how many of you recode it? And do you know how to recode it? Because if you get a regular garage door opener that everybody buys at Home Depot, and all 50 just so happen to be on your street, that generic number, you can drive by and just hit and see which one you open. So you have to recode it in the main box and sync it up with the remote. So that's why some guys will just, I've heard it throughout my 25 years in law enforcement, they'll just drive by neighborhoods and hold that key. Oh, the garage is open, I'll come back and just see.
Yeah, the best way is just the latch locks you put on the inside, if you're gonna go away, and mine came with it, and you just slide it, and it's locked. There's also a way to get into a garage without the coder too, you just need a cocaine.
Yeah, I've seen that on YouTube.
Yeah, whenever it comes up on our page, we take it off, because we don't need that out here.
I've had a couple times I've come home and my garage door has been open and my golf cart is parked right in front with my bag on it. And my neighbor across the street had his garage door open. He'd been working in the garage, went inside, and a car pulled up, took his bag of golf clubs off and took off in about 2 seconds. And every time I drive by and I see a garage door open with golf bag, I'll stop and go tell them, you need to close your garage door. Mine was open, thank God nothing was taken. And it's happened twice, but not frequently. So I think somebody in the neighborhood maybe has the same frequency, and when they open theirs.
Yeah, it might be, and that's why it's not being changed. The other thing about it is when I was a deputy in Temecula, I'd work graveyards, I'll see it open at 2 in the morning. I just ring the doorbell, make all kind of noise. What's wrong? Close your garage. Oh. Because I don't want to, I'm saving the day shift guy from taking reports, 20 of them. all day, and they'd be like, oh, thank you, I'm so sorry. I said, no, I'm just, just remember it next time. Yes, sir.
Just as far as the garage door, we had a house in Tustin when the Tustin helicopter base was there. They were having problems with garage doors opening from the military, signals going out, just accidentally opening.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been here 20 years, and I have never seen our security force so bad. The Securitas is absolutely useless. They're letting tons of people through. I've actually witnessed people going through that don't have tags, they don't have cards, they're just friends. And this is hearsay. There was a work truck stolen. Securitas was sitting just 100 feet away.
And it's on camera.
And it's on camera. And I have called to complain about, we had a bad neighbor for a while, called to complain that somebody on the Securitas called him and says, hey, this guy's calling about you. So it's, there's a lot of, it's absolutely the most useless security force I've ever seen.
And I'm glad you bring that up for the mere fact, me and Jay, your managing supervisor.
I've talked to him a few times, yeah.
But when I talked to him, I said, look, we gotta forecast these issues, the gate, what are we letting through? Because I'll tell him, when I have a guy that's here from Hemet, I ask him, hey, how did he get in the gate?
Yeah.
And if we have to run it back to the owner, run it back to the owner. Do you know this guy? Not now. But I did last week when, he brought a 12-pack of beer over for a party, but we have to kind of work with that. But then again, hopefully the security cameras that are being implemented and eventually is going to help out a lot. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. She stood up.
I stood up.
She has to, she's not as tall as us.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't see her over the dog.
I have two questions for you.
Shoot.
Thank you.
Not literally.
Okay, the burglars, the break-ins and all that stuff, is that by pretty much the same individuals? Pete and repeat? So are we getting,
Well, one, I can't narrow it down. I know we know who our individuals are in the lake. It's just a matter of
Catching.
putting them, catching them and putting the case on them. Like this individual we have 6 on, hopefully he branches out. Oh, I know. Oh, now let me look at you now.
right,
So now in other scenarios, I would love to say, hey, give me a surveillance team.
okay, 'cause
But we don't have that resource here, so. Second question.
my second question is the hit and runs have been happening here. I don't see anything on here. Are people not reporting the hit and runs? Because, they were putting them on our page like crazy. And like Continental happened, there's been,
Canyon Lake.
yeah, there's been a lot of hit and runs, but are they not being reported to? Is this something that we need to address and kind of pull out of people and say, report it?
Just report it. I mean, hit and runs.
But you don't have any hit and runs on here.
No, I don't, unless it's
And
a
they
traffic
happen a lot.
collision.
And they happen a lot in here.
But see, again, and I've said this before millions of times, I'll take the page to a certain degree. I cannot police off of that page, I don't even have access to it.
What, we've got pictures and
No,
stuff.
I get that, that's right, you're gonna tell me the whole case of what you got,
Right,
until that individual
right, I understand.
calls me,
Right,
I'm always at a standstill. We're gonna investigate it, we're gonna run it as far as we can, and we should have, every report that I read this morning or the last couple of days, my guys are asking for video surveillance, if there's any at the homes. A lot of people have some don't. But, I'll address that to a certain degree in a sense. I'll run the reports on our hit and runs.
no, the Mercedes that was abandoned. Did you, remember the Mercedes that hit, the curb, went up someone's
How
yard
long
and all that
ago?
stuff? That's not even on here, but it was reported.
In March?
Yes,
Okay, I'll look into that.
so it was a silver Mercedes, it was abandoned, don't know what street it was on, but it's on the east side, I think. Do you remember? It's, the Princess.
Yeah, let me put it this way, if those are called in and we were able to get all the information out, 9 times out of 10, I'm just
The car was towed. because
speculating,
the
but
guy left.
we have possibly a DUI, hitting a car, so there's a lot of things. I need to call and I'll look into what you told me.
I
Yes,
think,
ma'am.
and my husband brought it up on the community site, that people are calling Securitas instead of 911 when they should be
Right.
calling 911. I think that's something that maybe the Friday Flyer can emphasize, is that You know, when you have a crime, a hit and run, a theft, or whatever, call 911, don't call Securitas.
Don't
That's
call
not what
them.
they're there for. They're there to keep people out who don't belong here and to protect the POA property.
Security, not
Right.
after the fact.
So I think that needs to be emphasized, because I would have probably called Securitas
Well, no,
instead
they're there
of.
to observe and record.
And that's something,
Right.
No, our page, we emphasize time and time again, the difference between the RSO call and Securitas.
well, here, this is how I put it to all the residents here, that want to endure my 2-minute conversation, okay? All of you, all of a sudden, are pulled out of Canyon Lake and you live in Yorba Linda. Who are you gonna call?
911.
Okay, let's start with that first, because the culture in the lake that I've witnessed for 2.5 years is they call Securitas. And then they don't do nothing. Of course they don't do nothing. They're not sworn. You know, our job is to protect freedom, but we have to take freedom in order to do that. Securitas is just to make sure everything's not stolen or just high visibility. So we're, obviously, you know, everybody should understand, but I like the dialogue for the mere fact I've been saying this for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think just the last 3 or 4 weeks alone on our page, I've put up the same thing, that Securitas it's a misnomer really. They aren't security, they're hired to enforce the POA's CCNRs, and that's it. Now, if that happens to involve a speeding ticket, that's fine, that's within the scope of POA rules. Don, you guys have been on POA board, you know that's what they do. They're not hired to protect us or property. That's the sheriff. And people keep getting it confused.
You know, taking this information that everybody's given me, and I really appreciate it. I'm meeting with Jay right after this meeting, because we're talking about some other stuff, and I'll relay that to him.
One more?
Yes, sir, real quick.
This is to Don. Why isn't Securitas here, Jay?
I have a report, and that's my next.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
911 calls on a cell phone, does that go to the highway patrol?
It goes to us.
It goes directly to you? Really? When did that change?
Oh, that changed about a year ago, because normally everything, for example, anything close to a certain freeway would go to CHP. But now we've made the transition for every community, for example, in the middle of nowhere.
Excellent.
It's not inside near a freeway, everything's going to 911.
You know, reason people call Securitas because they think it is a security force. And the police are not a security force. They cannot protect us. They are a reactionary force. After something happens, they show up. And there's no protection per se, and they can't possibly, with 1 or 2 patrol cars, protect everybody. And that's why people call it Securitas. But that's found out that it's absolutely useless.
So I have one more thing once I'm done with everybody's questions. Anybody else? Council, anything?
Oh, I thought you said you had one more.
No, I just wanted, do you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay.
Does Securitas call you when they have a problem? Like they had a problem yesterday, the car running through the lake at 50 miles an hour. Do they get the license plate? Do they tell you about that?
They can ticket.
Yeah, they
Well,
can
they can't
ticket.
catch them when they just go right out the gate.
But the thing is.
If they went in the main gate and ran out the north gate
Yeah, a lot of them do
at
that.
50 miles an hour. Yeah, and the Securitas
But
can't go outside.
If they have the license plate number, I used to, when I was on the board, I was in charge of reviewing all the tickets. And I could see a pattern. I mean, when you deal with it, you start seeing patterns. And there was a couple of renters that would do that. If they were picked up for speeding, they'd just go out the other gate. Well, it got to where they had their license plate, and then the next time they did it, they wrote a ticket and mailed it to them.
Can I ask you a question about renters? You know, we have quite a few renters, and they're not always the best renters. Yeah, but we have some nice ones.
Yeah.
But why doesn't the city require people that want to rent their house go through a management company? Because we know one house.
We can't. You can't. We dealt with that. Over 20% of Canyon Lake inside the gates is now rented and rental properties. And with that comes more problems.
Yes.
Because you have people that don't really care because
Right.
they're just renting there. They don't own the property. So, and some renters are very, you know, there's
Right.
good ones and there's bad ones. Unfortunately, the trend seems to be that a lot of the problems come from renters because they don't
Right.
feel responsible. And we tried different rent controls. We did state that they have to register with the POA if they're going to rent a property, and they have to pay a deposit fee. And if there are issues, you know, so there are rental rules in place inside the gates that are far better than they used to be, but there's only so far you can go.
Because we know of one rental place that they use a management company, and they do background checks. The management company does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very, and
And
best renter in the world.
yeah, and renters, people that rent their homes should, but most of them don't. But we do, and this is not city issues.
That's POA.
I hate to cut you off, but that's a discussion that's really more for the property owner association than it is the city.
Very good,
So.
thank you.
So if I, in conclusion, 3 things. You call 911. Lock your cars or your property. This is kind of going to go right into dovetail to my 3rd point. Neighborhood Watch Block Captain meeting. If you want to be a Neighborhood Watch Block Captain, April 27th here in this building. I will be here along with maybe a deputy if he's not busy. And we'll have some other block captains that we have existing. To kind of get their trends. Obviously, it's a community-based approach. I've always told when Captain Judge was here, as well as my current captain, this is the model. Canyon Lake could be the model because you have a gate, and if everybody's talking. Some of my neighborhood watches, they just know the 10 of them on the block, say hello, 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 still connected, that's it. That's neighborhood watch. Hey, I'm going on vacation. Sure. You know, my neighbor tells me, hey, where you at? I'm in Anaheim, what's going on? Your water pipe's broken, turns it off. That's neighborhood.
Will that meeting be at night?
Yes,
People
it'll be at the 1900, but 7 p.m. for all.
You said if you're interested in being a block captain, can anyone come?
Anyone. Oh, yeah, if they want to hear what it's all about. But block captain, I need someone that's willing to take it by the reins and run with it. Or if not, if I have like 5 of them and they're all in that same neighborhood, sure. I just will look, hey, who wants the paperwork, kind of do the phone tree and all that good stuff. Questions, anybody else? Took a lot more than I needed, but I really like the question and answers.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. I'm very happy that we have the people here today. Usually we have just the people reporting, maybe once in a while one citizen. And that's kind of sad because our function is to get to the people and find out what their issues are and resolve them as a safety committee, so.
You just made the comment that this is a time when, you know, many people are at work. Is there any way to have a public safety meeting like a couple times a year where it's in the evening so people who are working can come rather than just a small group who are staying home?
That would not be up to me, that would be up to, well, the homeowners association has, I think they've organized, correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, doesn't the homeowners association, wasn't Donna Ritchie involved in that, have a
Community control committee or?
no, block neighborhood watch.
Yeah,
I mean, that was organized within the homeowners association, and that's something that.
But what I'm talking about is this meeting right here.
I think we should let the city manager speak to that because we can have meetings anytime as long as everybody agrees on it.
Yeah, that's fine. If the committee so wishes, we can pick out a couple of months out of the year to make sure that those are at night.
Excellent.
Maybe every quarter.
We could do that.
An evening meeting.
We've done it
How do we
before.
get that rolling?
We've done it before.
We'll sit down with the committee and plot out the rest of the year and see which ones we want to put at night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Nothing else from me?
Good
Ma'am?
suggestion. No.
I'm gonna go back to work like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go catch somebody.
I'm gonna.
Okay, I have a written report. I contacted Chris Mitchell, who's the POA general manager, because we had stopped getting the reports and it had been at request of someone prior. And I felt personally that we needed to have those reports because it is 2/3 of our, well, 9/10 of our city is within the gates. So I felt it was important for us to know. Friday Flyer, when I first moved here, used to have a printed crime thing every week with where the crimes were committed and what had happened, which I loved because there was a time when in our neighborhood there was a lot of crime and it was all the same things, and I was aware, so I was much more careful because I knew that there was somebody in our neighborhood that was a problem, and I think it just alerts people more. So that's something I wish the Friday Flyer would start doing again. But
do weekly, you mean, instead of
every week there was just a crime report, and it just had basically what he has provided here, just the number of, you don't have to put every little thing down, but if there was burglaries, car break-ins, that sort of thing, I think if people see it, they become more aware that, oh, maybe I better not leave the keys in my car, maybe I better not leave my car unlocked and my wallet in it, it's just that kind of thing. So
the only issue with that, I think, in today's world, is that we could do that weekly, but people, it's once a week, and like if something happens on, we do the paper on Wednesdays. So our week basically runs, from Thursday to the next Wednesday. So something happens on a Thursday, it's on the websites on Thursday, whereas we won't have it in the paper until the following Friday.
Yeah, and that's fine. At least it's in the paper. And my experience with Canyon Lake is that I know all the young people are into the website and doing everything electronically, but there's an awful lot of people who live inside those gates that are not into electronics, and they still like the newspaper, and they still like, so I'm one of them.
I'll bring that up and talk to Sharon about it.
So, yeah. Okay, so they are providing me with a written, Community Patrol is providing me with a written report. And the March 1st public safety meeting was canceled, so they did get the statistics for the month of February for me. And they're
Madam Chairperson, that's number 12 on the agenda, the POA. Is that what you're talking about there?
Oh.
So we still got a couple more before we get to that.
I saw special enforcement report, and I was just thinking it was this one.
No problem.
Okay. Shall I go ahead as long as I can?
Let's go.
We can't go online? Okay. All right, let's get to special enforcement.
Okay, I'll speak mostly on the BLM land, North Lake and what have you. We've been having problems with shooting. Most of these seem to be occurring outside the city, north of the city limits. I got a report from one fisherman whose wife used to work for Canyon Lake, that he was fishing, standing on a boulder fishing, and a rifle round struck the boulder. And that is kind of serious. Of course, a rifle will carry a long distance. He had no idea where it came from.
No, but he was outside the city. No.
He was inside the city, but
Inside,
he thinks
okay.
the shot came from outside the city. He didn't hear it. He did not hear the rifle report, which would indicate it was some distance to me. Have not found any shooting sites in the city. I usually identify these by shell casings or things people leave, and I just haven't found any. The other problem we've been having is people sleeping in their vehicles. That seems to become popular all of a sudden. And I confront them on them. I have them move out. They usually tell me they came out to fish. And one guy got pretty hostile. I think he had warrants and just didn't want to tell me his name. And there's no back and forth to tell me his name either. The other thing that we've been saying is a lot of dumping all of a sudden. Some of it just a little bizarre, like somebody dumped 2 toilets in the lake.
It's springtime, spring cleaning.
You
Oh,
say
okay.
2 toilets in the lake?
In the lake.
In the water lake or in the lake meaning the
The
city
north,
of Canyon?
I'm talking about the North
North-
Lake, off
okay.
BLM land.
Area.
That goes back there a long way.
Yeah.
Long way to get out there.
I've found computer parts that people dumped. Last one was a keyboard. Why they go to all the trouble to go out there and dump them, I wish I could tell you.
No.
But other than that, we haven't had any real major problems. So we've been pretty quiet as we normally are in February and March.
Yes, summer, they start coming out.
Yeah, some of these might be. Are there any questions?
We went hiking up by, took the
Jungle
path
Moon?
up the north of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw there were certain areas where there was tons of shotgun casings. Like they're shooting in specific areas along there.
Absolutely.
Outside the lake.
But the trouble is, most of them, just about all of them are outside. You get to this, you know where the rope swing is? The kids call it the rope swing.
Oh, did we see? Maybe so. I think so. Yeah.
You look by that and you'll see a sign that's partially, pretty well obscured by a bush. But that is actually the city limit sign. And anything beyond that, you're out of the city.
That's all beyond.
And it just doesn't, you know, there aren't enough people to patrol it. We used to have a BLM ranger that would show up every weekend. He retired. I have not seen a BLM ranger since. I have found Fish and Game out on the BLM land twice. We used to have a county ranger. She got transferred, and I haven't seen a county ranger since. So that's kind of what we're faced with right now. And it could be a lot worse at the moment, to be honest with you.
Can you give us the specific duties of special enforcement, what you do?
We do two things. We're involved in NPDES, which is National Pollution Discharge, and what have you. To control the environment, the lake water itself, we measure that. Code enforcement, we assist Jean on a lot of her cases, and we patrol the BLM land. And also we patrol within the city, but that is mainly a high visibility, you know, like the 4th of July weekend, we assist on the lake. These are all high visibility things. People see the car, they see more cars out there, and they do tend to behave a little better, I think. Any other questions?
You said people sleeping in the vehicles. Are these out in the BLM land or along the streets?
BLM.
Okay.
Oh. BLM, you're not, you go out pretty early in the morning, check the areas where I know homeless sleep. I have not found any homeless. Quite a while. I think the last one I found, Jean was with me. And that's been a while.
It's like that BLM man on the North Gate. They park their truck under the sign where it says no motorized vehicles, and they take off their motorcycles and they go running around all over the place, and nobody does nothing about it.
Well, to begin with, I drive a pickup truck, four-wheel drive pickup truck. Unless I can get in front of a motorcycle and stop him, when I say, come here, they wave at me.
Gonzo.
But he's got to go back to his truck because there's a lot of them just
If
park their
I
truck.
find a truck without a person, we cite it.
Yeah.
If I find with a person, depends on that. Most of the trucks that I find back there, 90% of them are fishermen.
Okay. Not on the right side, they're not.
On the right side,
You
you
go
also
down.
you're getting up in the county area.
Oh, okay.
And you can go there and,
Do whatever.
you only got so many deputies.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's why the government's trying to get rid of a lot of that BLM land,
Yeah.
because it's very costly to police it, and
Well, the BLM ranger we had worked out of the Palm Springs office.
Oh, okay.
So how much BLM land is between Palm Springs
Yeah,
and
oh my God,
You have to
And
remember
he
too
just,
that
the one that we had for so long, he just happened to really like patrolling Canyon Lake, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
okay,
How
thank
did-
you, Anthony.
How can we find the coordinates for the BLM land that you control?
You can
And
go,
I have yet to see a map that
Right.
clearly delineates where the city limits are. I don't
you
know.
have one in your office, don't you, Aaron, that shows the city limits?
I have an aerial that shows the city, with the city limits, yes.
Yeah.
I got a real good idea where they're at. When you're out on the BLM land, there's only one set of markers, black poles, and you draw a line between them. On one side you're on BLM land, on the other side you're on private property.
And you have to remember too, on county land and BLM land, I would, you know, and there are some areas that they're allowed to shoot in and ride in.
Yeah.
And if you shoot,
None of
there
them,
are
now,
rules.
however, you're not allowed to discharge a firearm within the city
So,
limits.
yeah, within the city, that's when,
And if you call the BLM office, they'll probably tell you that you can shoot on BLM land. You're covering an awful lot of land, and a lot of it's out by Barstow and areas like that. And I guess you can out there, but I certainly don't think you want them shooting on that lake, not with all the people.
That's when there's a lot as far as how far you can do to charge a firearm, yeah.
It is against the law within the city.
Yeah, within the city, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, you're saying it's against the law to discharge a firearm within the city limit.
Yes.
What if someone is outside the city limit shooting in?
Now I got a problem.
Can we shoot back?
So,
Please don't. No, your biggest problem with shooting isn't that a person's going to get out there and target a human being. It's that most of them don't realize what rounds do. Shotguns, relatively harmless. They don't carry a long distance. A rifle round, everybody thinks that it hits the ground and goes 90 degrees. It doesn't. Put a rifle round, hit the ground, it'll almost follow the contour of the ground.
Can ricochet too.
And if you're downwind, if you're downrange of it, you can get hit by one. And
22 can go over a mile.
yeah. So the rifle rounds are really dangerous.
They ricochet off water too.
Yeah, I bet they will. You don't just go in.
thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, code enforcement, Jean.
Good morning. Some of my numbers are going to go back to January, especially the first one where 21 banks that own foreclosed vacant properties within the city have gone ahead and registered with the city, which means we can go out, we have their permission to go out and check the property if we see a maintenance problem, graffiti, somebody's broke in. I have a number that I can get a hold of to get the maintenance company out there to do any repairs. We have completed our inspections of vacant bank-owned properties that we're aware of. There's always properties going vacant, but we don't always know about them unless somebody calls in and gives me an address to go out and check on. Especially now that the weather's warming up, if they have pools, jacuzzis, anywhere where water could be sitting, we're worried about mosquitoes breeding. We have West Nile and Riverside County, so not only is there a safety issue with the child falling into stagnant water, but then it becomes a breeding area for mosquitoes. We removed signs from the shopping center and the right-of-way didn't have permits. I have one case of graffiti right now that I'm working on, and I started a public nuisance case on one stagnant pool. The bank has registered with us, but they can't get permission to come into the gates, through the gates to get the pool cleaned. So we're working on that, and it may be an issue where we'll go public nuisance on it and we'll have to have it drained ourselves. We had one other last month that was a public nuisance. I could not locate the owner of the property. So we secured the property because the doors were open and the pool was full of stagnant water, so we went ahead and drained that one. We, throughout the season, we've been continuing to do inspections on any grading inside the gated area and also on our estates to make sure that no mud or dirt or debris is washing into the streets, because once it hits a storm drain, it goes straight to the lake. On building permits, we have 3 stop work orders right now where construction was started without any permits. We had 2 abandoned wrecked cars where we were able to get a hold of the owner and let them know that they have to be stored out of public view. And on the NPDS, which is worrying about what's going into our storm drains, we have 2 active grading cases that don't have any permits on them right now, and one we were so concerned about, the Regional Water Board came out to see what they were putting in place to hold the dirt back when it rained, and apparently it worked because we've had 2 or 3 rainstorms since then and the mud hasn't made it to the street. On special activities, we went and did Mike and I went with the POA code compliance and did a joint inspection of all our cases and what they can do on their side, what we can do on our side, and work together to get these cases solved. And then we attended the AVA abandoned vehicle abatement meeting for the finances for the upcoming year for the city of Canyon Lake. Are there any questions?
Yes. How do I find out where these bank-owned properties and if they're for sale?
Oh, well, there's for sale signs in the front yards of some of them, but a lot of them, the banks are just holding on to them. And I don't know if it's a legal thing. The one where I have the stagnant pool right now, well, I have a couple of them that I know are bank-owned. They've registered them with me, but the property owners still live in them. So, you know, and I don't know why. I'm not going to go knock on the door and ask them why they haven't left. I just know that they're there. So, which ones are for sale and which ones aren't, I'd have no way of knowing.
I think there's a website, isn't there, for properties that are in foreclosure? I thought there was a website that you could go to. Jean, you stated under the public nuisance case on the stagnant pool that the bank couldn't get in the gate.
Right.
What was the problem?
You ran title, it still showed the property owner owned it, so there's a glitch there from the time they take the property back, and when the name on the title changes, the POA has nothing about the bank owning the property, even though I took over my paperwork and said, well, they're paying us, and let them know, but they can't let anybody come in the gates to go clean a pool or take out the dead landscaping, which was another request of mine, on somebody's property where they show it as the property owner still is there, which they're not, but still owns it and has.
Yeah. Well, if the bank has control, but isn't it up to them to go to the POA and register as the owners of the property?
I don't know if the banks register with the POA or not. I just know the POA will not let them through the gates unless they are on title.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, that if you've got paperwork showing that the bank is paying you, the bank needs to deal with the POA with the same paperwork so that they can let her.
Right. All I know, well, then the bank got a hold of me, because I got a hold of the bank and told them that I would escort them through the gate if they would just let me know, or if they would work with me on the days that I work. And they are saying that it is illegal now with the owner, and that they're not going to do anything with the pool. So I've sent them a consent form asking them to give me permission to drain the pool and build them, rather than go through the whole public nuisance process. Yeah. But I haven't heard back from them yet, but it's only Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
When you drain a pool, where does the water go?
Has to go to the sewer outlet. We can't let that, nothing hit the street. Even if it was clean water, if it hits the street, all the debris
So how
in
do
the
you
street.
do that? Connect in?
There's a sewer outlet at every property, and you just take the hose and you just hook it to your sewer clean out, and it takes it right through the sewer lines. So we don't want the stagnant water going down the street, but I don't even want to see clean pool water going down the street, because it washes all the fluids that the cars have leaked into the street, all the debris that's in the street, it all goes into our lake.
What do you do when it rains?
No, rain in the drain, we get that, and we pray for
all
rain.
the stuff's going down the
Yeah, no, I know,
One more
I know.
question. You said that on vacant properties, and if the property is vacant and they don't know about it, you know, who calls in? Can a neighbor say, hey, this property is vacant?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
because that's how we found out about the property, where the property owner hasn't been there in 2 years, but they had a stagnant pool and the doors were all left open.
Okay, so how
So it wasn't a
long,
bank-owned property, it had to come from a neighbor, or we would have never known.
so as a neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
and you see a house on your street that's vacant,
Mhm.
at what point do you call and say, hey, there's a vacant house, is this, I mean,
Okay, okay, that's good. If I would like a call when there's a vacant house. if the property owner isn't maintaining it, if the trees are dying, the yard looks terrible, there's trash and debris blowing up against the front porch, if the gate's torn off the hinges, and especially if there is water on the property that is going stagnant and breeding mosquitoes, if the windows are left open. We have an ordinance that says you have to secure your property, windows and doors, if you're not going to be at it. And that's to keep people from moving in and setting up housekeeping. It's to stop the kids from going in and doing graffiti. And of course the stagnant water is obvious. We don't want children around stagnant water or mosquitoes. But it doesn't have to be bank owned. I deal a lot with the banks and with the foreclosures because they're usually the ones that look so terrible. You know, the banks aren't going to come out and do anything unless we start threatening with fines. But no house that's vacant, the owner has to maintain it. They cannot bring down everybody's property value on the street.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
Okay, now, I'm going to do my committee patrol. So where was I? Public committee meeting, Public Safety Committee for March was canceled. They are always, Chris explained to me that they're always a month behind, so in March we'll get February and so forth. So what we have is the February report, and there were 39 speed enforcements, 11 stop sign violations, 4 failure to stop for school bus, 36 parking violations, no golf cart speeding, no motorcycles, no helmet problems, no curfew. There were 2 people driving using their cell phones that were ticketed, 1 disturbance, 4 identifications for access control. They were members who didn't have, hadn't renewed or whatever. There were no trespassers. There was no failure to comply or refusal to show, which is nice because we had a lot of that in the past. 18 animal-related, barking dogs, not on leash and so forth. 1 verbal abuse, and no miscellaneous, and no vehicle tows. There were 345 calls for service. What is this? Oh, out of those, they just gave a total of each of the things. That they did confiscate 31 expired passes or driver's licenses, 30 POA cards that expired, 11 loud noise, 7 suspicious persons in vehicles, and 44 identification for access control. There were 6 trespassers and 38 members. The average response time was 6 minutes, and they list all of the streets, which I'm not going to go through. There were several. There were 13 process servers allowed, and concerns for security are vandalism and graffiti, speed enforcement and stop sign enforcement. And just to reiterate, the contract for Securitas only allows them to observe and report. So on any kind of crime, all they could do if they came was watch the guy, call the police and watch the guy until the police get there. They cannot in any way
Stop and detain.
Pardon me?
They can't stop and detain.
No, they can't detain and they can't do anything about it except to observe and report. In some cases that has helped. We had a burglary and the neighbor called and the Securitas sat there and watched until the police got there. Unfortunately, the burglar apparently had a radio and heard the call and took off out the back door. But the Securitas watched him. He was heading out towards North Gate, and the police caught him before he got out the gate because they had observed. So at least in that case, I mean, they have been helpful. And also just, I think I need to warn everybody to cut just a little slack while this main gate thing is going on, because it's very difficult for them to, when you have one lane coming in for everybody, I'm amazed at how well it's going. I expected it to be a nightmare, and it's really not been that bad. I live very close to the gate, so I'm in and out all the time, and it hasn't been nearly as bad. But it hasn't been because they are probably less careful about stopping people and going through passes and all that. I know they did because my grandson was following me and unexpectedly was coming in the gate, and I didn't have time to call, and I said, well, just follow me and I'll show you my card, which I did, but he had to check the card and he had to write out a pass for my grandson, so he did follow the right procedure in that case, which was a pleasant surprise to me. But right now it is very difficult for him, so everybody needs to understand that, and I'm not making excuses for any Securitas that may not be doing their duty. I can't speak to that, but it's not part of what we're here for.
Excuse me, Dawn, before we get to Lee, if I may just interrupt for one moment. There's been several questions as to why Securitas isn't here. We asked them not to be here last year because the entire meeting was taken up with questions that were all items that took place inside the gate. This is the city council. This is public safety. This is fire, police, code enforcement, and what have you. We tried to stress that to make sure that the people got the proper information as to what we're responsible for. And secondly, you'll hear all of this information that Don just gave you tonight at the POA board meeting. It's the same statistics will be given by Jay tonight at the POA board meeting. Not that it's redundant. Some people don't go to the POA or don't watch it. Some people don't come here. But nevertheless, there was just too much time spent on items that were something out of the city's control. We didn't want to be rude, but we did ask the POA, will you just furnish us the statistics, and we'll try to handle it the best way we can. I'm sorry for interrupting, Lee. I'm through for the moment.
I just want to ask you on your agenda on line item 12, it says POA Community Patrol. Written information is or to be provided at the meeting, and is that just for the Public Safety Committee, or can you all, since you're talking about the Community Patrol in your Public Safety meeting, and you do have a lot of residents here that are new, and they're not familiar with what the form looks like, or what the Community Patrol, how many car wrecks we have, or how many of this we have, etc. It might be nice for you guys to provide just a few copies that you would need, so these people could take it home and see, and maybe want to go to the POA meetings and hear more about it and talk about it. But I feel that they've not seen this, I have, and I find it very informative. Like, oh my gosh, someone stole a screwdriver out of the garage or whatever, or caught these people, or peeping toms or whatever. It kind of gives them a visual of kind of really what's going on the POA side, as well as they just listen to what the police were doing.
That list that you read is
Thank you.
not on the back table for distribution?
No.
It's in the agenda packet, so it's online and it was sent out. The Community Patrol one was sent out in the agenda packet, so it is available online.
A lot of people are not online.
Okay, so we will make sure to
We'll
provide that.
we'll have some copies in, and
It should be available on the back table.
to speak.
Yeah, just a few copies. I'm not talking about a lot of money.
No, we'll have a few copies for anybody that's interested.
Just so you know too, the Friday Flyer gets that, and we also put that in the paper.
Right, but I'm here on a
So-
Tuesday, and
That's true,
and I
it doesn't go till
understand
Friday.
it, because you're delayed on your newspaper and stuff, which is
Right.
understandable, but I'm here, I want to learn, I want to see what's going on, on
But
Saturday.
when it's something that, like if you're not here, and
Right.
it's something that's published once a month, a couple of days really isn't gonna
Right,
matter.
I understand that.
So
A lot
at
of
least
people-
it's available to the ones who don't have, like you said, the website.
Right,
or
I don't have the
whatever.
website, my
Right.
newspaper doesn't go to my house, it goes to my office, so,
A lot of renters don't get their Friday Flyer.
yeah.
They can request it and it'll be sent to them.
Well,
We
okay.
will have some copies on the back for those who are interested. And just to address what Jordan said, I wasn't sure why it had been suspended. My personal feeling is, having come from a number of years serving on the board, this is public safety for the city. the homeowner association is part of the city. It's 90% of the people in Canyon Lake live inside the gate. So to me, I think this security report from Securitas is relevant to the city. So we have to agree to disagree on that. I think this is compromise. They don't have to send somebody here and spend the money to have somebody give this report. But if we have it and it's published, then I think that will be a good compromise. So.
Well, it also is nice too that if we get it here, Don, at your meeting, public safety meeting, then I can make the choice, oh, I want to go to the POA meeting tonight, so I have a chance to go home and review it, et cetera, because you can't answer those questions because it's not a city.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not part of the city, I should say, but I can go to the POA and I can
Yeah,
ask
you could address Securitas
right,
there,
exactly.
which, I mean, we would have to go through Earl and big long process. Okay, public comments, we've had a whole bunch of those. Is there any additional public comment?
Don, on the sheet, if we've had the sheet, because our page is roughly about 2,000 members, I mean, we can save some money, save away some money. Once we put it on our page, it goes out instantly to 2,000 members.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a phone call, calling somebody, hoping they'll pick the phone. It goes out. When it goes out on the page, notification is on their phone or their laptop. Most people have phones.
Yeah.
So it's a quick way of communication. Then that way, if they're interested, they can address it at the POA.
Yeah, thank you. For those who don't know, Jerry Patterson and Lee Clark publish a website called Canyon Lake.
The neighborhood
Canyon Lake Neighborhood Watch.
Neighborhood Watch. And if you're not on it, you might want to get on it. It gives you all kinds of information about what's going on in the community.
Question. We talked about quarterly or twice a year doing the evening meeting. Is that something that needs to be voted on, or how do we know when that's going to happen?
The committee will have a discussion about it, and I don't know if we need to discuss it with the city council or not, but we will find out what we have to do to get that in motion, and it will be published that there will be a quarterly evening meeting.
We'll have that on our page when it comes out.
Oh, by the way, I do have one other thing I just want to mention, because it does have to do with public safety. There is a committee that was organized within the POA, actually. It's the Recreation Committee, and they're currently working on designing non-smoking areas in some of the Canyon Lake parks, and they addressed us. Just, they didn't really ask us to designate city areas, but wanted us to be informed of what was going on, and the city could, correct me if I'm wrong, pass an ordinance to have non-smoking in all public and common areas, which would include the POA. That would be, any common areas would be the beach, the parks.
The rules of that are already done to the POA rules as far as no smoking within 25 feet of the POA building and also the parks.
I'm not so sure about that because
I just read this morning. I was looking up another one under PC. Oh, no, okay, that's.
The smoking issue will come before the council for discussion tomorrow night.
Okay, yeah.
And the city attorney has information on that she'll be sharing with the council.
Okay,
You
yeah.
also need to include vaping.
Pardon me?
Vaping, where the electronic cigarettes, that would be considered smoking in the.
Yeah. Okay, so just to alert people that is on our agenda.
Okay.
Any other public comments? Committee member comments?
Yes, I have a few. First of all, I would just like to thank everybody for being here. This is the first time we've had a healthy discussion in months. Normally, the only ones that are here are who you see up here and our enforcement officer. So I can't stress enough that this is what public safety meetings are all about. And I'd appreciate it if you'd get the word out. And there was a great exchange here of information. I don't know how many people took notes, but you know, we still are rated one of the safest cities, but we do have crime. And it's pretty, you know, locking your car doesn't take a whole lot of remembering to do, taking the keys out of your golf cart, closing your garage door, calling 911, all these things that people probably know but don't remember. I can tell you 50 years ago, I think it was at least 50 years ago, I installed a garage door opener in my home. And I thought, and I had a garage that faced the street, and I didn't know for sure if the garage door was open. So I put in a switch that killed the power to the garage door. I have it here in Canyon Lake with both of my garage doors. I don't have the same thing. And I put in a transformer and a little light in my front door so that I knew when the garage door was open. And if it was open, I just threw the switch, closed the garage door, and you could drive by with any gimmick that you wanted. But you couldn't open the door because the power was turned off. Now, maybe you don't do that during the day when you're home, but every night when we go to bed, you throw the switch on the garage door. It can't be opened except by ourselves. And you don't have to do that, and I'm not looking for a job because I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. But it's not a bad idea, and it's a really easy safety feature. Just interrupting your switch to where your garage door is plugged in. You know, a little on-off switch. Yeah, you can do that, and nobody's going to open your garage door. I know this information wasn't solicited, but this is the type of thing that we would like to get out at the public safety meetings. What we should do, and anything that somebody's experienced, if they can share it. So hopefully we'll see all of you and many more at the next meeting, and I think that between Dawn and I'm sure we can figure out when we can have evening meetings as well. So once again, thank you all for showing up today. End of my comments.
All right, staff?
Other than, if you haven't heard, Chief Hawkins from CAL FIRE had emergency bypass surgery on Sunday. So probably will be out of action probably at least the next month. And hopefully, the city has a meeting scheduled with county regarding our fire contract coming up, starting to renegotiate on May 12th.
Would it be possible for his assistant to meet if he is incapable?
I will find out as we get closer to the date. So towards the end of the month, I will check in with Chief Patterson to see where we're at, if we'll still be able to have the meeting, regardless if he'll be well enough to attend at that time or not.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Nothing you understand? Okay, I declare the meeting closed at noon. 11.
No, 11.
11.